Hey everyone.
Hey gang.
Are we live?
Let me go and check this.
Oh, hang on. No, according to my phone, we're still offline.
Okay. Where's the eraser?
Why is that then?
What is this? This is the eraser. Okay, it's good.
Oh, I think we might be going live now.
I'll make this rubbish heart and make a better one. Way better. Okay, I'll check the stream when it's up. Currently live now is Rex Plays Ninja Gaiden 3 Razor's Edge number 5 What a Shocker Cliff.
Oh yeah, I haven't changed the stream info. Let's do that. And I hear voices now.
Oh yeah, I haven't changed the stream info.
Yeah, we're in a loop.
We're in a loop?
As in...
I hear voices now.
Never mind.
You can hear us on our delay.
Yeah, correct. Thank you. I need to mute the stream, but we are getting sound, which is good.
Cool. I'm just changing stream info and then we'll get started.
What are we going to call it? LD45 jamming.
Ludum Dare 45 theme discussion.
Theme discussion.
Hey, Multi.
Multi-fish case here. Oh, yes. I like that. Look at that. That was good, wasn't it? I knew who it was. I knew the full name. I didn't even have to look. You see Sky and Niddly Doo.
Niddly Doo.
Little Doo. Niddly Doo is I think is the name I'm gonna go by from now on. It's obviously very good.
Let's get our stream up on my phone so we can see what's hip and happening.
I need to water my plants.
No game. Okay. The Great Beret.
Fine beret.
The Desperate.
Fine mode. Deece mode. I'm gonna start up a rival channel called Deece mode.
Multi apparently is the only one to exist, but I'm now ready to get started, so we're not waiting another moment. So hi.
You don't want to let the room fill out a little bit? I'll get a glass of water.
If you need one, mate, you go and get a glass of water.
I would like a glass.
Sounds like you're very unprepared.
Well, I just thought you let the room fill up a little bit. I don't know. You want to show off any of the stuff that we've done in the past, just so people know roughly what to expect?
I actually showed it on the last stream, but yeah, we can do that.
Oh, well, that's convenient. You've already done it.
All right, we have... Hey, Scribble. Hey, Jordan.
What's some peeps?
We've got 6 people. That's fine. We can get started. Okay, so quick recap of what's actually going on today. For those of you who are not already aware, this weekend is Ludum Dare, which is a global game jam. It's a 72-hour game jam, which means that lots of people come together and try and make a game. Not everyone together, but lots of teams try and make a game in 72 hours. Obviously, that's not very much time. You don't tend to sleep all that much over a Ludum Dare, and the aim is to make a very, very small scope game, maybe even something that takes the form of more like a prototype, maybe a proof of concept of a larger game. Or maybe you are actually trying to finish an actual, a fully fleshed out game, but just something that is minuscule in size in 3 days. Some famous games have come out of Ludum Dares and various other game jams. Off the top of my head,
Titan Souls.
Titan Souls. I think Hyper Light Drifter may have done. Or am I just thinking of Game Maker games? No, I think that's just Game Maker. But Evoland came out of
Evoland came out of LD.
Broforce came out of Ludum Dare.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Amazing.
So. It's in a list of Ludum Dare games I was looking at.
Okay.
So it's generally indie games, as you can imagine from the format. AAA games don't tend to start as game jams, unless you're thinking of maybe the Amnesia Fortnite from Double Fine.
But and even then, would you really consider those AAA? Tune into my review feed before I moan about Double Fine DF9.
So yeah, lots of indie games come out of Ludum Dare where the developers then go on to like fully fledge a game idea that they started during a game jam. Niz and I have taken part a couple times. We did Ludum Dare's, I want to say 32, 33, and 34. I think are the numbers. And 32 and 34.
32 was the first one we did.
Okay, yeah, we did 32, 33, and 34 then. 33 was a weird one because I actually learned the Game Maker engine during LD33, so not a lot got done in that one because I was actually learning to basically code for the first time from scratch, and we just used the LD to sort of teach me how to make games. Although we still did some stuff, and I think the idea for the game that came out of that is really good.
It's the best idea we've put to we've put to Game Maker for sure.
It's a game that I would seriously consider making right now if it hadn't sort of now been done by other games. I don't remember the name of it, but I have seen a concept for another game. I think it's out.
Heat Signature is very similar.
Yes, Heat Signature, that's the one. It's so similar. So I don't know if our LD33 game would ever materialize. I think it's maybe that base has been covered.
It's just like a much better version of what we tried to make.
Pretty much. But yeah, LD32, we made a game called Latvian Milk, which was a top-down wave-based shooter where your gun changed every 10, 12 seconds. We should also mention that, the point of Ludum Dare is that you always begin with a theme. Everyone makes a game to that theme. So the theme of our shooter was an unconventional weapon. So you had to make a game based on an unconventional weapon or something that fit the theme. So our weapon just swapped out to another random gun of some description every few seconds. The guns themselves never got too weird, which was the original idea, and it was just something that we didn't quite have time to get to.
We only had one that was a bit odd.
We had one odd one, the egg-firing one.
Egg gun.
So there was a gun that fired an egg, and if you hit an enemy with it, it would do damage. But if you missed with the bullet, or the egg, I should say, an enemy would hatch from it. So it was a payoff. Like if you managed to, it's almost like the Own and Streak challenge on Isaac. If you actually don't hit anything with your bullet, it's gonna negatively affect you because it's gonna spawn an enemy into the world. So LD33, I don't know if I remember the theme for Thritch.
This was Hyper Democracy, right?
That's 34. We made Thritch in between.
33 was...
The Thritch remains. The one that barely we made anything.
Yeah.
It's the spacey one. I don't really remember the theme for it, though.
We were pretty off theme. It was something like You Are the Bad Guy kind of thing.
Oh, yeah, it was, yeah. And that story never even happened in the game at all. So.
No, we got no narrative.
We got nowhere near that. So, but the LD34, there were two themes that kind of tied, and we went for both, just for fun. I remember 2-button controls being one of them. I'm not sure if I remember the other.
2-button.
And part of the game was that you had to like vote on political bills that were being passed in the town to determine what happened.
Fun, actually.
So you went on a website called 2button.com and you had to vote up or down, being your 2 buttons on bills. Depending on which bills passed and failed, certain things would be affected in the game. There were fewer branching paths in the game than I would have liked. Many fewer, actually, because again, you just never have as much time as you think you do in a Ludum Dare. But it looked good. We got some very nice music and a few other things. Thanks, Tech Driver?
Thanks, Tech.
Are we talking about Tech Driver?
I still love the MS Paint background.
All right, let's. So yeah, I think we're about to get started. This stream, we're going to be looking at 15 themes that may all be the theme that gets decided on pretty much an hour to the minute from now. In a day and 4 minutes. The final theme will be announced and the 72 hours begins. But who else have we got here? We've got Tack, we've got Rainbow, hey guys. And Tack is Kerbal, yeah. So, let's get started. If people have ideas from chat, by all means share them with us and we'll talk about what we could do. So the main things to bear in mind if you do want to come up with ideas for this is these games need to be tiny in scope.
Yeah, like the most minuscule thing in the world.
Yeah.
Like, don't think of a story as much as think of an interaction, I think is about
so, like a base game mechanic perhaps. And not much more than that. If you're
a twist.
We're not making Skyrim, we're making something closer to the size of like, I don't know, is Tetris maybe a good baseline complexity?
I would say basically that like the kind of the default games that you think of when you think of like styles of game like Mario, Pac-Man, Space Invaders.
Yeah.
like those kind of thing. It can be about that size.
Yeah.
And when I say the size of Mario, I do mean like the size of a level in
Of
Mario.
one level of Mario. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you're randomly generating it, maybe, but that, of course,
Oh,
takes some
Rachel's
time as well.
here. What's up, Rach?
Rach is in chat. Is it Rainbow?
Rachel's not in chat. She's just messaging me on WhatsApp.
Okay.
So actually, that's listening to a brilliant segue. Do you mind if I just quickly go over some ideas that we've had submitted?
Go for it.
So my mate Rach is it's very high, and I've submitted this list, and here's the 3 ideas we've got so far. So just quickly to get these out of the way, because these are probably going to be the 3 best ideas, and we're probably going to want to come back to these.
Okay.
So hang on, let me just quickly. So I sent her the themes, and this is what we're looking at. So this one's for duplication. This is going to make a lot of sense. Okay, so duplication. Here we go. Small blob of jelly. You have to propel him off a spoon. The faster you propel, nah, I'm out. That was idea 1. That's a good one. Second one, this one's sort of alright. This one's for mutation.
Yep.
Werewolf in man form. He's chained to a wall. You have to make him angry so that he turns into a wolf. Now that's sort of an idea. Yeah, okay, I can give her that one. And then here we go. It says night is coming, and then okay.
Do I already know where this is going?
I'm struggling with this one here, but it's sink semicolon a toothbrush. That's the full idea for night.
Is it because it's a sequel already? It's like Sync 2, the
Sync
toothbrushing.
I think so there you go. So that's definitely my favourite idea.
And that was for night is coming. I guess just getting ready for bed.
Okay, okay. You've actually understood that better than I ever did. I've just sort of been sitting on it. Then she just sent me a picture of a turnip. So I think at that point it sort of devolved. I think that's all of the ideas we're getting out of range. So we can now sort of lock those away to the toothbrushing. I like that a lot. So
I'm going to remove this so we've got some space to draw.
Rich says you're right. So I guess that's really the bedtime thing. So that's okay. We're good. Okay. That's it. So we can come back to those.
Yeah. So we're going to start going through the themes. We'll go one by one. We're going to try and come up with at least a preliminary, very baseline idea for each theme, so that when the day rolls around, I know where we've got a starting point. Do you mind if I remove the picture of this from our doc? Is that okay? Or do you want that in there? Is that all right?
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead. All right, so start with nothing. I guess also, just to come back to it as well. So I said things to bear in mind. Tiny scope is something to bear in mind. Also, things to think about as different meanings than the obvious meaning is something to consider.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think of a quick example here. Factory could maybe be a game about like factors, things that have to do with like maths factors or something. Or side effects. I guess effects could be almost like personal effects, as opposed to, some kind of buff or a debuff in a game or whatever.
Yeah.
So
things like what was it, making connections. Obviously, that leads to like 2 immediate ideas, like connecting things together with like lines, and also like talking to people and building friendships like that. But it's important to read them a lot of different ways. So what was I going to say? One of the other things that we do usually is we'll hit an idea. If we find an idea that we think is pleasant, we will then see how many of these themes could feasibly be applied.
Yeah, that's something to do as well. So come up with one idea that could potentially hit factory and one item, many uses, and mutation or something.
Yeah. Cool. So let's dive in.
All right, start with nothing. So what are your immediate thoughts when you start with nothing?
Well, usually it's kind of weird doing this live. I feel like we're under scrutiny, because normally what I would do right now is just look through all the ideas we've ever written down.
Yeah, I guess as much as possible, I want to try and think of like original things, but there's no harm in saying, "Oh, we've once thought of this that sounds like it could be start with nothing."
Start with nothing.
The thing that I immediately think of is like Big Bang is like the immediate first image that comes to mind. Although I imagine that's what a lot of people are also going to think of, and we don't want to come up with the same idea as everyone. Is something to try and.
Well, that's interesting. That's not what I would have thought of.
No.
No, start with nothing. It's some kind of collectathon where you're collecting. I don't know. In my head, I was thinking like body parts or something. Like you just like a little orb, and you haven't got any legs or something.
Adding bits onto you. Yeah.
Adding bits on. And that is something that I've actually done for a game jam before.
Right.
So I don't want to do it again.
The one thing about start, what do you think about it as a theme actually as well? Because we could vote on these as we go.
Oh, that's true. We can say which actually, should we do that first?
Do you like it as a theme?
Start with nothing. Yeah, I think it's not bad. It's a bit. It's the usual problems you get. Right, they're too broad or they're too specific.
I think start with nothing to me is too broad because you could apply start with nothing to almost any game. Because in almost any game you do start with quote unquote nothing of whatever the final goal is. You start with no coins in Mario. You could say that's a start with nothing.
Yeah, fair enough.
So
I'm pretty indifferent towards it, to be honest.
Okay, I'll say zero. It's not. I don't hate it. It's not sound as gravity.
Zero. Sound as gravity. My favorite.
Do you want to go through and rate them all, or should we do? I reckon we do ideas as we go.
Quickly go through, and then when we come up with ideas.
Unconventional travel. I like unconventional travel.
Yeah, unconventional travel so far I think is my favourite I've seen.
Side effects too broad. Don't like it.
Yeah, not a fan.
Small character.
Side effects though. I would try and do something weird and wordplay with that. I think.
I'm thinking like personal effects. Maybe side effects is you've got a table with lots of personal effects down the sides of the table, and you have to use them to do something.
Personal effects, or like particle effects, or like
it could be the personal effects of the people you're seeing on the side. So you're having to root through the handbags of all the people that you're like sleeping around with to remove evidence that you've been sleeping with them or something.
We've come up with like 4 distinct game ideas that are basically about stringing on a series of unknowing partners.
It's a good puzzle, like right? Trying to work out how to not get caught in a serial adulterous situation is a good puzzle.
It's got real stakes, man. Small character, big enemies. That's whatever, isn't it? That's nothing.
I don't mind it, but it's not amazing.
Small character, big
I guess
enemies.
I'll zero it because you don't like it.
Like my brain immediately goes to something like Titan Souls or Shadow of the Colossus or something.
Yeah.
Big enemies.
Small character could be like a letter, like a symbol.
A small character. What's the smallest character? Probably I. Science engineering.
It's full stop.
Full stop.
A game called Period, but it's not quite as bad as it sounds. Factory, in a weird kind of way, I like Factory because I feel like I could make a decent game based on it, but I don't think it's a good theme.
Okay, yeah, I agree. It's not a good theme, but I do think that we'll probably come up with something that will work well.
I'm gonna -1 it, but not because I think we have.
It won't win.
No.
Actually, if I had to guess which one of these is going to win, one item, many uses looks like it could be good. Take one, leave the rest looks like it could be good, and unconventional travel looks like it could be good. They're my guesses for ones that will win.
Hasn't Mutation won before?
Mutation's boring.
Yeah, it is. I think it's been one. I think that has been a theme. Yeah, I think take one, leave the rest, and one item, many uses are very likely. Shelter, I don't like it. It's way too weird and not specific.
Shelter, it would be like I think most of the games you would see would be like stamina bar games, moving around in a snowy environment or something.
Yeah. You've got one safe zone that you
or one of those like you can't be seen by the spotlights kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think they're both trash. I wouldn't want to make a game like that. So.
-1?
-1, yeah, I think it's trash.
Okay. One item. I'm wondering whether I want to just downvote the 2 most likely ones to get something a bit weirder. Just as like a
honest, I like the ones that I said that I think are most likely that are also the ones that I think would be pretty fun to do.
Yeah, I think they're both good themes.
One item, many uses.
Should we tick them both +1?
Yeah, I think it's good.
Okay.
I think it's good.
Night's Coming, I think is awful. I think it's one of the worst ones here.
Yeah, I don't
really dislike that one.
Night is Coming. It's just nothing. The only funny thing on it is a really rubbish sex joke.
Which is where I thought Rach was going.
Yeah, it's shockingly not well Rachel. Well, Rachel was sync semicolon and a
Also, the number of people who will do that, and it would be such a bad LD because 10% of the games you play would be just sexual innuendo.
games.
It'd be
Yeah, no,
crap.
not great. Not what you're after.
I'm -1ing that. Making connections. I like that it's got double meaning. I'm down with that. I'd +1 that.
Making connections. Making connections.
It's got
there's something.
I don't know. I guess one of the double meanings is fairly specific, but the other one's decently broad. I like it. I don't know. What do you reckon? 0 or 1? I would personally +1 it, but you can bring that down to a 0.
+1 it. I mean, also bear in mind you're going to be on this LD more than I am.
Well, yeah, voting it's more about whether we like it as opposed to trying to get the theme in.
Well, I mean, the other thing is, if you come up with a brilliant idea that only works for a theme you don't like, you do still upvote the theme, right?
Isolation. Don't like it. Yeah. Duplication. It's better.
Although I feel like
it's
isolation can come up with a mechanically interesting thing for isolation.
Yeah, like something that works differently when it's not near other things.
Yeah, which is actually a bad review puzzle I've been doing today. But also just like having a thing that is surrounded and having to use some kind of movement mechanic to separate out its surroundings, or I don't know. Duplication. The opposite.
I would null duplication.
You'd null duplication.
I'd 0 it. Yeah.
Hang on. Before we do that though, Jelly Man on a spoon. The faster you fling him, you will have to fill in the rest.
Have you got anything after that?
Anything?
Do you have anything?
Did I give you any?
Mutation not only isn't very good, I think it's been one before. I think that's definitely -1.
Yeah, it's genuinely rubbish. It's too easy as well. Like,
yeah,
there's too many things that you can just say that counts as a mutation.
Again, like Mario accounts. There's different versions of the same enemy. There's more
than
one
Mario
kind of
counts. Right?
Low tech. I don't think it's the worst. I think it's not the -1.
Low tech.
I think
I can't think of anything.
Maybe still 0. I feel like it's too specific to be a +1.
Well, low tech is either like not very good technology or very low down technology.
It also means that people are going to make bad games and claim that they're low tech game.
That's true. It's a nice excuse though. Low tech would be things like I don't know you'll get things like maybe like what's it called, the Fantastic Machine, the Amazing Machine. No. You know, the Rube Goldberg game.
No, but I can imagine.
Yeah, Incredible Machine. I think it's probably Incredible Machine. It's a Rube Goldberg game, or like Bad Rats. Which is
what a game!
What a game! Maybe. What a game! Don't even have it on Steam.
It's got to be like 50p, right? I know I have it in a shared library. I think I can get it from Rex.
Okay, we should play Bad Rat.
Should we? Should anyone? Should everyone?
No.
0 low tech.
I can't think of anything good for it now.
Neither
but I feel like
I don't think that makes it a bad theme.
It's a good writing prompt, I think.
Yeah. I'm gonna
0
it. Evolve to Survive, kind of rubbish. It's just mutation, isn't it?
Evolve to Survive is boring. Yeah, don't like it.
Cool. Okay, so that's our ratings. That's what we like and dislike. And now I'll certainly start reading chat more as well, because we can start taking ideas and suggestions and things from chat. But yeah, we're gonna start thinking about ideas for these things. So when we reach a particular theme, if you've got an idea for it, yeah, let us know. So this start with nothing.
You're being yelled at in chat a lot.
Okay, let's go and take a look. Molly Fishy better than when Rex chooses easy mode for everything he plays. Low tech Sky fail of a challenge series. Oh yeah, true actually. So I was doing a challenge run of Conviction, Splinter Cell Conviction, where you can't use any gadgets.
Oh yeah.
I hit a complete dead end. There's a room with 3 guys staring at a door with their guns out, and there's nothing I can do there because detection fails.
Did you consider sneak?
I did try to sneak past them, but they're all staring at a door.
Very sneak.
Oh, he's got it. I need to go back to the series.
Do you mind actually if we just quickly pivot to a Splinter Cell run? I should have tried very sneak.
I should have tried very sneak. Incredible sneak.
Sneak.
So start with nothing. Is there any double meanings to this?
Start with nothing. This is a problem. I've been playing so much Babbitt as you.
Sentences mean different things.
Yeah,
when you're
like
playing
start
Babel.
with nothing is genuinely like it's kind of like The Witness. It just you start seeing all the patterns everywhere. This is really fucked with my like head. Like I remember when I was in Copenhagen, me and Dan were like saying Babbitt is you sentences at each other. It was like the nerdiest. There's only two of us, but now broadcasting to the world.
Here's a potential meaning of start with nothing. I guess it's kind of actually it's not copyright infringement.
Jurassic Park 2.
Bad rats.
We
make bad rats.
That's not copyright infringement. No one would have the fucking gall to copyright that.
I was thinking, is this copywriting Microsoft? But I guess they don't have a monopoly on the word "start" for this. But an OS where your start menu is empty and you have to navigate it or get things into it.
Yeah, I mean, also games have start screens, right? Like,
ooh, I like that. You enter a game with nothing on the start screen. You've got to try and work out how to play the game.
In my head for like 5 minutes, but I don't know what any of it means.
Well, it's interesting, like having to like mess around with the start screen of a game to try and get stuff onto it, so you can even interact with the game in the first place.
Yeah, like the game's
that's cool.
Like the game's, it's like I don't know, like you're on a broken start menu or something. Like what would you do then? You'd have to like, I don't know, affect things in the options and stuff.
Yeah, maybe. Although
there's an idea there, right? Like that's weird and that's fun.
Mm-hmm.
And no one would do it.
I wonder if
you'd be the only person.
Yeah, so I imagine sometimes on a start menu you have something that's almost like auto playing in the background, like someone auto playing the game, like a bot, or maybe just.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
You get what is clearly a start menu, like all the icons go like boom, boop, 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 and all like pop in from the bottom, but there's just no text on any of them. They're unclickable.
Did I ever show you?
And you have to mess around with the autoplay in the back to get things to happen. Sorry, go on.
You know when I made Causeway?
Yep.
Did you see the not when I made Causeway, when I made the Causeway like post-mortem video?
Maybe.
Okay, I made like a post-mortem. It was like the final presentation for the game, and because I couldn't be there to do the speech to talk about the game,
right.
I did a developer commentary, and there was like as a joke at the beginning, I made a fake developer commentary menu in After Effects.
I think I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, so like it changes language at the beginning,
yep.
and then it like goes into like DVD extras and stuff.
Yep.
It's just like a little like Easter egg. But like that's like having what you call them, like menus within like collapsed menus with like loads of like specific options and things. Having to like it could be like a game to like have to remap the keys somehow. Like you only got one key mapped or something.
Okay.
So like in order to map keys, you have to like get into the key remap menu, but it's really hard to do that with the only like 2 buttons you've got mapped or something like that. Like there's like a whole, in order to get the game to just be able to play, you have to set a bunch of stuff.
Oh, I wonder if you could have a game like that. So it's about unlocking keys that you can now map things to, right? And you start with nothing. You start with like no available keys, which means every ability you have is mapped to one key.
Right.
So when you hit that one key, everything you can do happens, which is obviously helpful in some ways, but
you're thinking of the all keyword from Babbitt is you.
Yeah, Babbitt sort of is every game in a way, isn't it?
Yeah, Babbitt's the best game I've made.
As everyone go and play Babbitt is you. So everything is like mapped to one key, and then you unlock new key bindings, and you can choose which ability to put over to that key binding, so you can start like separating them.
Okay.
I feel like that's too big scope. Because you'd have to have enough abilities to justify them all being on one key actually affecting anything.
I do think it's a really fun idea that you know, like the don't touch anything.
Yeah.
Game is
which is
like,
it's an LD game.
That's an LD game as well. Oh, cool. That's interesting.
Please don't touch anything.
Yeah, it's just sitting at a console, right? Like I think sitting at the start menu of a game and like trying like realizing that is the game. Like that's a fun twist. Start with nothing.
I'm gonna take a quick look at chat and see if anyone's got anything here as well. Fishy says start with nothing makes me think like a survival game, like Don't Starve.
Yeah, just you got to watch your scope on things like that as well.
Yeah, definitely. And
I think you start with just your mouse, then get keys.
When you start going along those lines as well, again, you're sort of opening it up to being almost any game really works with that theme.
I've just realised something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like Rainbow Llama just says you start with just your mouse, then get keys. You can actually do that, right? Like, let's say you have your keyboard's broken.
Yeah.
You can still like theoretically enter stuff into your URL bar by like copy and pasting letters.
Ah, okay.
Stuff like that.
You have to navigate your OS by just tabbing through buttons for ages until you. So you can unlock new stuff.
Yeah, or like literally like you've got a start on the menu and you can copy and paste with your mouse. So you can map things to like S, T, A, and R, or like star can be like a shortcut for asterisk or something, and then you've got the asterisk available. Or, I don't know. Rats, bad rats. You can play bad rats.
We code the entirety of Bad Rats into our LD game. Wouldn't take very long. That's the first 6 hours or so of the jam. We code Bad Rats, and then we've got about 2.5 days to work on.
Yeah, while you're doing that, I'm going to just code the entirety of Bad Rats.
I'm just going to port Bad Rats into our Unity game.
8-bit Bad Rats. Yeah, no, okay, but that's something, right? That's an idea.
Yeah, Scribble says like if you had this sort of auto player in the background, if that was what we went for, like a broken start menu, you could start seeing things in the background that like are codes that.
I think that's stuff. Yeah. I really like the idea of having an autoplay demo for a game that you actually never even play as well. But that seems fun. Because you could literally just do that as a video, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't even have to code like any logic to that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, like something like that, or even just like a credits roll. Like that'd be really fun, if you did have to copy letters and stuff. Like you'd have to copy them out of the credits. And like obviously we could like manually do the credits so that like the only letter you need is a B, but there's like no B's or something. Like, oh my god, how has no one got a B in their name? It's like instead of like Brian, it's like Dryan. It's like, who's called Dryan? I don't know, there's something in that. I don't know.
I guess that concludes Start With Nothing. Let's just make sure I didn't miss anything in chat.
You also have to think, I guess, as we're doing this, like what seems reasonable to program in the time frame.
Of course.
Like, we're looking at unconventional travel, and someone will do like a grapple hook game or whatever. Like,
yeah.
Is that reasonable to do in Game Maker?
Yeah. Fishy's talking about one-item menu uses. We'll come back to that one. Something like the hidden codes in a game like The Game, or whatever it's called. I don't know exactly what that means. Okay, so next one is unconventional travel. There's tons of things you could do for this.
Unconventional travel, yeah. I saw a game do something that I've really wanted to do for ages, which is you just have like a rock you can throw and teleport to it. I saw a game in the Facebook indie game chat doing like a pretty good version of that.
Unconventional travel. One thing you could do for this is rather than the travel method necessarily being unconventional, like teleporting or whatever, is using an existing vehicle in an unconventional way. So using a boat to travel, but by like filling it with rocks and rocketing it down a hill type thing or something. So using a car, but it's upside down, so you're not using the wheels.
What's that golf game called?
What the Golf?
Bad Golf. Hey?
What the Golf?
Yeah, What the Golf. Yeah. Like that. Where like it presents itself. Yeah, What the Golf's fucking brilliant, isn't it?
I know very little about it.
2020. We're both talking about it, and it's not even released until next year.
Isn't it available now on Epic? I thought I saw where it was.
Okay, I played it at EGX. Let me go and grab a glass of water again.
Sure. Hey chat, what's going on? Using a rocket jump teleportation mix platformer. Hey Steve. Travel by taking over another character's mind. Okay, so you switch between available characters. Walking on your hands is very unconventional. It is very unconventional. I'm not sure if it's a game. Thing about unconventional travel, it's one of these themes where I guess it's less about the story. Yeah, I suppose you could definitely do this with story. But there's kind of two ways in these game jams of fulfilling the themes. One way is to make it a very mechanical adherence to the theme, and one is a very story-based adherence to the theme. So you can make unconventional travel, if you wanted to, just be like a walking sim, but you're going on a journey that is very unconventional or something like that, even though the gameplay itself is actually quite straightforward. The other way of fulfilling it is by your mechanic being weird. By your mechanic fitting the theme. In this case, you would have a weird mechanic, like a weird travel mechanic. So there's two ways you can really do it. Have a story that fits the theme, or have a mechanic that fits the theme. And unconventional travel definitely shouts out as one that you're probably going to do via mechanics. But you totally could do this with story. You could actually just have a game that's pretty normal in the way it plays out. It's just that the storyline is about unconventional travel.
Yeah, so Tax just said it, and it was what I was thinking as well. But I imagine a lot of people go down the QOP route of having unconventional input.
Multi-fishy things like iron bread, awkward controls. That reminds me of Manual Samuel as well.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of that kind of bossa style stuff, I think.
Yeah. You use the thrust of your farts to move around, and you have to eat beans to refuel.
Okay, so I hate that.
Yeah, I think I refuse on principle to ever make a game with toilet humor.
That's the worst thing I've ever read.
There is, in fact, you might want to go and check out Kickstarter Crap Gas.
Oh yeah, isn't there like a literal game that does
that? Yep. iDubbbz tears apart a Kickstarter project about... To be fair, like, it's also an awful game. You could make a game that plays well on that theme, but this game clearly does not play well. This deluded man comes up with a game all about farting, and you have to collect tacos and nachos and stuff and beans and...
I will unsubscribe if you do that. Fair, reasonable. I will as well. Have I donated yet? Have I done a thingy, a Camelot challenge?
You've never Camelot challenged us, no?
Okay, I want to Camelot challenge you.
To pay back the...
I'm going to quietly work out how to do that while we continue this.
I dare you, £1 million to pay back the money you owe.
Oh yeah, shit. I'm so shit. Well, I guess it's nice and positive, isn't it? But I do just forget that I did.
Hey, Fish. I do plan on sending you a nice crisp 20 to go along with it.
That's cool. 20 as a thanks. Yeah, I would Camelot challenge you if I had money. I'll just Camelot you with the money that you borrowed. Don't consider it borrowed, mate. Is yours. Anyway, let's go up to unconventional travel. I think unconventional travel is really good, and I think we should sit on it for a second because I think it's cool. I think maybe getting around weird inputs. I think that's the least interesting version of this you can do.
It's probably the most popular, which is what we're going to try and avoid.
Yeah.
Are there any double meanings? This is usually the question I ask myself first. Are there any double meanings to this?
Unconventional travel. You
could be trying to get as far away from a convention that's happening in town as possible because you don't want to get stuck in traffic or like you're trying to avoid all the nerds. So you're trying to travel to the
unconventional travel could actually just be like you're in a traffic jam, and in order to get out of it, you just have to like scrape up against loads of cars. It's just like a rammed area, and you just have to or like get out and like jump over the cars or something like that. Travel also just like think like travel agent, like booking tickets to something.
But to weird places. Being a travel agent to really odd locations.
Or how about like this might be a bit much. I don't know if it's a small idea maybe, but like you get given like a client, and then you like draft, and then like they say a few things you want, and then you like draft a destination for them, and then just like slap them a ticket. Like they give you like budget.
Yeah.
Thing you want, and then you've got a few brochures for like
it would be a bit
places they could go.
Simmy, you've got to try and get the best holiday for them that they want or whatever.
Yeah, like they come, you know, they have some stats they lean towards, and then it's kind of like almost Papers, Pleasey. Is you're just like signing them a travel agent deal, and you have to get like a bunch done before the end of the day, and then you start getting like, yeah, I don't know, like this feels like it's scoping up too much, but like you start getting ones with like catches to them, like. Or like just like really weird, like hey, the brochures came in today. We've just got 2 active war zones and a pit.
What about along those lines for unconventional travel? So you're like a taxi dispatch, like almost like air traffic control, but for taxis. You're choosing the path they go down or whatever. But you're carting.
Sorry, excuse me for a second. I just keep getting sent graphic Shrek pornography.
Okay.
Just to try and elicit some kind of response on stream. So can we just consider this the response? And can you please stop sending me graphic pornography? I don't need any more, thank you. Cool. All right, sorry. Can you please go back to what you were saying? An idea that definitely flew clean through my thin and miserable brain.
So you're like a taxi dispatcher. You're choosing the routes that the taxis take. And to varying degrees, the people that you're trafficking around, not like that, but the people that you're
Oh, not like that.
what's the word for it? Ferrying around.
Sorry. Yeah.
To varying degrees, knowledgeable of or don't know the city that you're in. And so you've got to
Okay.
work out how much they know about where they're going, or like you've got a little file saying like they know these landmarks or whatever, and you've got to try and milk as much money out of them as possible, send them on bad routes,
Like
long
around the
routes,
house.
but without going somewhere where they'll recognize that you've sent them on a route that's clearly not the most efficient, fastest way of getting there.
That's fun.
Some people, you'll see the profile and then clearly they know the city very well. You've got to send them on a really efficient route. And some people, you'd be like, oh, we can, these first visit to this city, they're from a country that doesn't speak the same
maybe
language.
they they have a few things that they say out loud as well, being like, "Oh, my nan lived here" or something.
Yeah.
Sounds big.
I don't know if that would necessarily be big. You make a little map, or just like
Make a
almost
little-
like a node map in a way, not like you choose specific streets, but just
So
you
you
send
wouldn't,
them
this
through
is like
nodes.
you're not thinking of a manual driving game. You're
No.
thinking like-
You're the dispatch. You're planning routes. So
God, yeah, it's
The-
kind of drawing on a map.
in fact, we have a whiteboard. So you'd have a map, and let's just
Yeah, let's do it.
say
Sure.
that you've got like just landmarks in some kind of just like a node map. Maybe you've got a street map if someone would have time to just like draw
You just
out
draw
a
it
street
on
map.
right? Speaking of, right?
and they'll have
do you want
lines
to just
between them.
quickly elicit the fan base for some, if anybody's got spare time, kind of thing?
Yeah, I mentioned it before, and I may well take just offers from people if anyone wants to do bits to help out with the game, whatever. I think that may well happen. So you've got just a node map that looks like this, and this guy's going from let's put a new color on this. He's going from here to here, and
Yeah.
if you think he knows the city very well, you need to send him on that route. But if you think you can milk him for all he's worth, you could send him on some mad route that goes all around the houses, and you get more money.
Yeah, okay.
So there's just a little like text file or maybe based on maybe these are happening live, and you're seeing conversations with the taxi drivers, and you just have these little pop-up windows
Yeah, okay.
where the taxi
Okay.
driver's asking questions to try and like eke out, does he know this place or not? So you have like you can see like 3 or 4 conversations happening at once.
Like
and
when,
you have
or like at every node, you get like a new snippet or something.
yeah,
and then
and you have to be like, okay, I need to reroute this because they're gonna go somewhere where he knows where he's going, and he's gonna. And
Yeah,
maybe
okay.
and maybe you've got to have 2 or 3 going at once, and you've got to balance it. So you might realize, oh shit, this route here, this is going to be bad because they're heading to somewhere where they know, and it's not on a good route. So I have to reroute it.
something. Yeah.
I guess let's write that down. And after I've written this down, I'll check out chat and see if people have got anything going on, or if you want to go and read while I'm writing this down. Unconventional travel,
As a
Sending
child. Oh, there you go, yeah.
people on inefficient taxi routes based on what they don't know about the city. And yeah, let's see what's going on with chat here. So earlier back, I think it was Scribble mentioned. Apologies if this wasn't Scribble. Steve says increase the font size. Let's do that.
Come on.
But someone mentioned about like jumping in between minds of people, kind of like Taxi Driver, whatever that game's called.
Oh,
Driver San Fran. Yeah,
That game has blown up recently on YouTube.
really. It's a really good game.
Two really good videos came out about it because apparently it's unlisted now. You can't buy it anymore. I still think I have. I mean, maybe you have actually.
I have a disc version of the PS3 game, I think. somewhere.
Yeah. I really want to play it again.
It
Someone's
might be
talking
yours.
about, what would a
I'll
second-person
send it back to you.
game look like? And there's actually a second-person segment in Driver San Fran. It's such a brilliant game.
It's really good, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely shouldn't have been called Driver San Francisco.
It was it Steve who said that?
Best car game.
Hang on. So yeah, whoever said for that idea, jumping in between the minds of people, you could do something like that. It has already been done before, in games like Driver San Fran, but not a lot. And I also don't know if it's necessarily something lots of other people would do. I think it is something that comes to mind. It's not super out there. Like I imagine almost everything's going to get done by someone, right? Like 3,000 plus games get made for these gems. I imagine you'll see a couple games to do with that. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. But let's put it now. So jumping between minds of various living things. Anything else to put down for unconventional travel?
Hang on, sorry, I'm just saying you a Camelot challenge. So like, there you go. Custom stream alert if applicable. This is good rainbow.
Where are you hearing all of the Camelot sounds? Is this a new feature on the website? You choose the.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. I don't. You know what? It's not gonna play on stream because it's not gonna play on stream. The sound. Because
it's not gonna play on stream.
I'm in an OBS stage that isn't hooked up to Camelot.
Well, I'm still sent. It doesn't matter if it plays on stream.
Okay.
I was just about to read my card details out loud. Jesus Christ, you can tell I don't stream, can't you?
Multi says a car which doesn't stop driving, basically speed the game.
Yes, I like this one. That's a good idea. There
are games that have kind of done this sort of thing. There's a parking game where the car just hurtles into the car park at like full speed. And you can't, there are no brakes. You have to just like let the car naturally slow down and try and get it into a car spot as it slows. But then also it works kind of like bowls where after some cars have gone into the spots, the next cars you're driving in can totally like knock other cars out of their spots. Or you could even try and knock cars into spots. And it slowly just pile up more and more cars into the car park. But yeah, a car that doesn't stop driving,
is a really
sure.
fun idea, especially if you have to do stuff that, you know, like taxi or something.
Yeah.
Is there another like equivalent for that? No, not that springs to mind. Rach says, "I've played that car parking game. It's fucking ridiculous."
They played it on Game Grumps.
In the chat, dude. Stop! You don't have to have this sort of private
Christ,
line.
no! Please don't put Shrek porn in chat.
Yeah, actually, no, don't go in the chat.
Don't go in chat.
Hippopotamonstrous esquipedaliophobia. Hippopotamonstrous esquipedaliophobia. What's that? Fear of big words.
Okay. Should we move on to side effects?
Yeah, there's some good ideas there, right? I do, like, part of me thinks that one's going to win, so...
Yeah, it's up there. It's definitely up there.
Side effects. Side effects. Okay, like, it's like a very literal interpretation, but...
it's often maybe the best way to go with ones that don't feel literal.
A game where... I don't know, I'm thinking like Punch-Out, but you can like juice beforehand. And basically when you take, you can like take pills, and you can read the pills and they have like a list of side effects, and they do weird shit. Like you've just like quadrupled your damage, but now the keys have been remapped and we haven't told you where, and there's a filter on the screen, and like there's a 5-second lag or something, and you play like a really standard game, like Mario. Or Mario would be a fun one, right? Because you've got magic mushrooms. You play like a really standard game, but like you have the option to juice up, and then it does weird shit to your controls.
Okay.
Punch-Out makes sense to me because it's literal. Like...
You could have it be so that upgrades themselves don't necessarily have. If you're taking pills and stuff to get what do you call it, like upgrades, but you obviously you're not supposed to take certain medicines together and mix them. So it's the combination of I've taken this and this, and now you get a side effect based on that.
Yeah.
And now, if you'd like to share with the class.
It's a long one. You remember the whole juice goose thing?
Yes.
It's a bit more of that.
Okay.
It's definitely not worth the recap.
Okay. I mean, it's a quick recap if you want it to be a quick recap. What if juice was spelled Joose? That's the recap. There really isn't much more than that.
No, there is. There's way more to it.
Okay, well, part 2 is, therefore, goose is spelled Guice. Done.
That's the funniest thought anyone's ever had. Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay. Look, you know you loved it. That call on stream, you know that murdered you. Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. So.
Okay. Side effects. Side effects.
Sound effects. SFX.
Side. Are there other meanings of side? Does side really mean anything except just the side of something?
Like choose your side, which side you're on.
Side effect. Yeah. Okay. Side as in like group, like gangs, like teams side. Fake train addictions, says Fishy. I'm not sure what that means.
You're getting dissed in the other YouTube chat, by the way.
There's a second YouTube chat?
Well, Rachel's WhatsApp chat.
I see.
She says, I said that murders you, and she said, I can't imagine anything murdering him. Serious, Simon. So, it's a little bit of a burn. And then I ran to your defense. Because Rachel's a fucking kid for nothing. Doesn't know you like I do. Right, what else we doing? Side effects. I'll agree with you, us. Do you want to just move on to small characters, big enemies?
Sure, we could always come back to it. Hey, James. Fake train addictions. What does that mean?
I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means. Let's put it in.
Fake train. Don't put it in.
Yeah, I don't like side effects. Bad theme. Probably won't get picked. Don't mind too much. Small character, big enemies. I wonder if you could do something with this where you are a keyboard character and you can, hey Ash, you can change the keyboard character to do different things. So at the moment I'm a hash and that does certain stuff. So I'm going to change that to a J and that does certain stuff.
Okay, hang on, explain that again, because that's something, right?
So your character is a keyboard character. You've got big enemies, no idea what they are, but you've got big enemies around, and you're this little keyboard character, and you can choose anytime. You can just press maybe all of the movement controls and stuff are with the mouse, but you can just press any key on the keyboard, and the character becomes that. And maybe it's as literal as the shape and size of that.
Well, I was going to say, if you
character
put collision on it, that's really interesting, right?
I don't know how you do that though.
Neither do I. Also,
Quickly
wasn't there, like,
in Game Maker.
Amazing game I sent a GIF of the other day that was like writing words and it all had collision. Like there was like the dot on the J rolled down it, and like, what was that? Fuck me. That was like months and months ago.
What was Ash actually saying? Taking a certain side affects the rest of the game going forward. Also high. Okay. Yeah. Side affects. Side affects the game. That's kind of funny. Having a game called Side Effects the Game, meaning side effects the game about side effects, but it's also a literal sentence that explains what the game does. It's just side affects the game. The side that you've taken affects the game.
Well, hang on.
Side affects the game.
We're getting into bad grammar, and I'm not going to stand by it. That would be affects. Affects would mean to begin or commence. So
fine.
Shan't be doing that.
Well, split the difference and call it side affects.
Side FX. FX. Fuck it. Let's move on. Small character, big enemies. Big enemies.
You haven't put over that.
Big enemies. That's rubbish, isn't it? When you take out a small character.
Big
Small
enemies.
character. A man of little character. A weak-willed man.
Fishy mentions Pikmin for this.
Pikmin. Yeah, I mean, it just like it's a lot of stuff, isn't it?
Steve says Soul Reaver type side effects. I'm not sure what that means. If you want to
Big
explain.
enemies. What's wrong with enemies? Oh, big, too big. Oy.
Small character. Small character.
Small character.
Big enemies.
This whole one is funny to me now.
Well, yeah. What if it was small and big, like being a good guy? Like, you know, when you do something that's really big of you.
Well, like the enemies are like the bigger man kind of thing.
Yeah. The character's like a small man, a small pathetic man. Whereas all the enemies, they're really big, you know.
Small character. That's great. That's a you are the bad guy kind of vibe again. Okay, can we mush through this a little speedier because I can't stick around too long.
Okay. Do we have any ideas for small character, big enemies?
I could actually. Hang on, let me just check with Alyssa what she's doing. Okay. I've got nothing for small characters, big enemies.
No,
It just feels like you can only make one kind of game.
Yeah. I don't worry too much about not having ideas for that kind of thing because it's not going to get picked, is it? I would hope. I would hope that people understand that's not a good theme.
Yeah. Okay.
Small
character, big enemy. Oh, this whole thing is funny to me.
Okay.
Oh, thumbs up.
Factory. It's just Zachtronics games, basically.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Any Zachtronics game is good for that. Making anything, any production lining stuff is good. Again, not a lot to it.
I wonder if you could have a production line that's generating a staff of musical notes. So it's actually a music factory, and you've got little conveyor belts of notes and stuff, and you put them onto. I imagine that's almost. I wonder if you can make a game like that where it really is just like a sim that writes music for you. So there's no goal to it. You just have a toolbox, and you can just write music that's randomly made by your machines dropping notes into different like conveyor belts and stuff.
I remember ages ago talking to you about the idea of the business whose job it is to sort colours.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's not really a factory, but it's kind of production lining, I guess.
Do something along those lines, though. Do you want to re-explain that?
Yeah, I can do. So the basic, like you are, you're sort of running an office. You can sit at your computer, or you can hire people to do it later on. But basically, you just your factory's job is to nebulously sort colours into like groups. So you'll get given a job, and the job will be like, "Hey, I need to know which of these are red and which of them are blue." And then you get colours flashed up on the screen, and you say that's red or that's blue. But they're like more and more varied, so it's not just like straight FF000 and whatever blues one is. Like you get ones that are like a bit more in the purple spectrum, and basically you just have to say if there's more red or blue in it.
Right.
And then later on you'll get like, so it's like those How Good Are You at Colours games.
Yeah.
But you can basically also like train staff to do it. Would be sort of the kind of end goal, is you hire someone and then you can sit with them and give them a training day where you run through like loads of colours with them.
Yeah.
And then you can set them to tasks and you can take on jobs. So it's like, oh, this one's just another red and blues, and this one's like, oh, you want to know if it's orange, green, or purple.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay. I have to work out which is closer to which.
And maybe you could just if you were going to put that on the factory line, you just train someone with orange and not orange, and then send green and purples into someone who knows green and not green, and then you've got it sorted.
Yeah, exactly. And then you'd have like jobs that take like a certain amount of time. So we need this one done within the next 6 minutes, and it's 100 sheets or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I don't know if I have enough staff for that yet or whatever.
Yeah.
It's scope upable. It's kind of a factory.
I feel like I had another idea while you were talking there, but you just wouldn't shut up, so now I've forgotten. What was it? Hopefully it'll come back to me. But that's cool. That's 2 ideas. That's enough.
Okay. Yeah, let's keep going because Oh shit, maybe I should just bail actually.
That's fine. Wow.
Ah.
I'll leave that there for a minute if anyone wants to wonder at my incredible spelling of shelter. That was quite the effort.
Wait, the stream's delayed, but I'm very excited. Shellard.
Not even close.
Oh, I've got the Google Doc open. Why am I not looking in the Google Doc? Shellard.
Shelter. Oh, it's rubbish. You could do anything. You could really do anything. Shelter. It doesn't have any second meanings. You can have like political shelters, like getting refugees to countries that are
I think the problem is like it gets kind of
sheltering a
heavy,
fugitive.
right? You have like
Yeah.
shelters for like, you know, people that are in hiding or
Yeah.
like people that have suffered abuse, but you wouldn't want to make a game about that for LD.
I mean, you could. I've seen like depressing LD games.
I know, it's like you're treading on eggshells, aren't you?
Yeah, people tend to like them though. To be fair.
No, they do. It's one of the things that I've never really understood, actually. A lot of the really heavy games. I guess it's just because you have to be brave to do it.
Yeah. A couple people now have mentioned literal like shelter. I suspect tons of people do that.
Yeah, because of Mario.
Also, it's slightly cheating the quote unquote second meaning of the word because it doesn't say shell. You have to add your own L in there, which I think makes it not quite
Umbrella.
a second meaning. Yeah, umbrella. Okay.
It says umbrella as in Kingsman, but I just think like umbrella in general is kind of interesting.
Rainbow says
Even
no,
just-
you're treading on seashells, making a deep.
Even just a
Hey.
game, where you're just trying to like walk from A to B while it's raining in like a real big wind, and just as the wind corrects, like you have to like point the umbrella as you walk around and stuff. That could be fun. It's really straightforward. Like even just a game about just trying to like get from A to B without breaking your umbrella, and simultaneously like not getting wet. Like that is a genuine struggle. I guess I'll have to. I guess let me know when you head out. Hang on. Let me just quickly check. When's?
Sure. What about a sheltered childhood? What if it's about like making
Oh,
a
like
kid
like not been taught
Yeah.
much about the world. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, Fishy says you could be like a soluble creature, so you've got to make sure you stay out of the water. Stealing
Soluble
umbrellas? That's kind of fun. I used to play a game in primary school, like that me and my friends invented, called Point Blank, and I don't know why it was called Point Blank, but the idea is that you could
Ninja
only
fight?
stand on shadows. It was a really fun game. We just picked 2 spots in the yard, and you could only be on shadows and have to get from point A to point B.
That is fun, actually. That's just fun for a game.
Yeah, and so you'd have to find like people who were going in the right direction, or just like find trees and stuff like that, and get from shadow to moving shadow. So sometimes you'd have to like, it was a race, so you'd have to find people and be like, "Could you please get me to here?" And lots of kids would be like, "No," because they're sports. But occasionally you'd find like a teacher or something. You'd be like, "Hey miss, can you come over here and please walk from this spot to this spot to help me out?"
See you later, fishing. Rainbow likes Shelter. He says, "Oh, that sounds like my life. I came out to my family and stopped going to church and found gay friends." Actually, specifically said, "Stop going to church." But I'm just getting on your spelling here in a moment of sweetness. No, just do a
Do something about be a
game
gay
about
rights
growing up
activist.
in church.
Yeah. Catch.
Shelter.
But yeah, sorry. The reason I bring that up is you could have a game where you're like dodging under people's umbrellas. So you're going from person. You don't have an umbrella. Lots of other people do, and you're dodging from person to person, trying to stay out.
This is
out
fun.
of,
Do you know what's really fun about this as well? Aesthetically, that's dead easy because you just do that classic top-down Hollywood shot, right?
Yeah.
With all the black umbrellas during like
It's one sprite.
1940s rain or whatever.
Or you just put like a recolor on it. Make one white umbrella.
Just
put a colour
you
filter
do,
on
you
it.
do a black and white game. You do a black and white
What?
game, right? You do like just all the umbrellas are just.
Maybe it's not about
Like,
rain.
yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's staying out of like CCTV. So you've got to just move from place to place without being seen.
Well,
By
that's the
staying with
twist,
it.
right? You think you're trying to stay. You think you're trying to stay dry, but actually you're a criminal in this game.
Actually, you're trying to stay wet. And the rain
Joke's
is
on you.
falling from the floor
idiot.
upwards.
You were supposed to be wet this entire time.
Yeah. Okay. Short.
I like that.
staying-
You know, that's actually I actually really
Under.
like the because I can just see I can see the image as well. Have you seen you played Super Mario Odyssey?
A tiny bit.
Okay, there's a bit in
Excuse me.
That's a weird reference, I guess. Then, but there's a bit in Metro Kingdom where you are in this massive packed street and you've just got to get from A to B, and there's loads of people walking. It's like a sea of people, so you get pushed back a bit as well. But I think that's really fun, actually. Just like it's just like it's just like a busy street or whatever, or it's like a busy area, and you've just got to get down the road while tons of people. I'm big into that one.
Okay. Let's move on to one item menu uses.
Yeah. Liz is here as well. What's up?
Hey, Liz.
Welcome to chat. No one's in real chat.
Okay, one item many uses. Again, it could be anything.
And this is just so you know, at any point you can just shut this down. I'll leave the stream and we can go and hit the gym.
I'm gonna run a phrase by you, Niz. It comes from Steve in chat. He says, "Swiss Army ketchup bottle." Thoughts?
Bad phrase. No, good phrase. I don't know.
Swiss Army ketchup bottle.
Is it
what
one
is
tool
one?
menu? That's one item. That's a shame.
One tool menu uses, right? Okay. What does it mean to you? Interpret that phrase.
One Swiss
Army ketchup bottle.
What's the Army of Switzerland?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a ketchup bottle that's sometimes mustard.
Okay. All right, I'm down with that.
Okay, that's a thing.
That's a fun idea for like a story or a game or something. Like a Swiss Army.
Jesus
Where
Christ,
it's actually the Swiss Army.
Rubbish.
And
idea
each
for a story.
Individual person has like a different thing.
It's a good idea for a story.
Yeah.
Imagine that's like this ketchup bottle, but sometimes it's mustard. That's the worst idea for a story anyone's ever had.
Steve says ketchup goes with everything. That was the idea.
I hate ketchup.
Bread or sandwiches or clothes or duck poison. A tasty treatment covered in butter and sprinkles. Okay. I've lost you a little bit there, Rainbow. I think you need some sleep.
You need to go back to church. You need Jesus. Okay. Alyssa says 12:15. I'm gonna leave you, my love, my sweet, my angel, my special boy.
Now?
Yeah.
Don't even fucking think about coming back.
I mean, I won't be.
Good. You better not.
Good. I will think about it though.
Better stay at that fucking gym.
Shall it? Alright, chat. It's been a ride. Let me just. Could you just quickly go to the whiteboard, please? So I can leave a little goodbye message for everybody. Let's go with like.
This isn't the end of the stream, by the way, everyone. I'll stick around. I'm gonna go through the rest of this list.
Yeah, no, you go Nigel. This is big. Actually, I should have done this first before I made you just watch it patiently.
Niddle.
Niddly do. Niddly do. Oh no, wrong button. Niddly did it. Peace. I've left you a. You do have to look at it, by the way. Just get it up on stream or something.
The whiteboard.
You have a Camelot challenge.
Okay.
And I am holding you to it.
Okay.
And I will also try and help.
Also trying to help. Okay. I'll go and look it up on my phone. Hang on.
Right, I'll speak to you later.
Catch you later, bud. It's just you and me now, chat. Alright. Let's see what this Camelot challenge is all about. If you Google Camelot, this website does not come up. Okay. Submit a functional Ludum Dare game. It's going to be a tough challenge. I mean, it really is. Making a functional Ludum Dare game is the problems with it. Number one, it's really easy to accidentally scope too big. Everyone does it for every game. You will never make a game that is the correct size or even too small for a Ludum Dare. Your idea is always too big and you always end up scoping down during it. So trying to make something that actually does properly work and then does everything you wanted it to do just never happens. So if making a functional game, it is pretty difficult. But yeah, let's carry on with our list here. So back to chat. Hey chat. It's not just a game think tank, Steve. No, you make a game in 3 days. Obviously, it is a tiny, tiny, tiny game that you make, but you do make a game. The reason we're just talking and thinking out loud today is because tomorrow, around this time, an hour ago tomorrow, the final theme from this list of 15 down here will be announced as the theme everyone has to make a game for. So in order to save as much time out of that 72 hours as we possibly can, we're going to try and we're just spitballing potential game ideas or like very rough ideas for games for each of these so that when the theme comes around, we're not going from scratch. Because spending 3 hours coming up with your game concept out of 72, it's like a significant portion, right? You don't want to be spending that time doing that. Ideally, I want to spend like half an hour actually properly fleshing out what the game's going to be, and the rest of that time spent developing as fast as possible. So this is just preliminary. This is saving time during the 72 hours, because once that time begins, you have to hurtle through the development. So one item, many uses. It's a good theme. It's a cool theme, but it is very broad. You could do like anything for that. The one item could be all sorts. Now something like a Swiss Army knife is probably where a lot of people will go with this idea. So, excuse me. It's, I guess, just making a Swiss Army knife I would try and avoid. There's 2 ways you could interpret this. And maybe the second way is actually just a boring cop-out way of interpreting it. Or at least it might look like that. But many uses doesn't necessarily mean many different uses. It could be that you have one item that you can just simply use many times. So let's say that it's a shooter, and you have like 100 bullets to finish the level, and you don't find ammo anywhere, so you get many uses out of this one item. But once those uses are up, that's basically it. It's game over. So you could think of this in 2 different ways. You've got one item that has many different ways of being used, or one item that you can just use many times. The problem with the second way of interpreting that, one item that you use many times, is that, to be honest, that applies to most games in a way. So unless you're really focusing on that, and the fact you can use it many times is very important, you're risking, like, what I just said almost applies to any shooter, really. I'm saying you never pick up new ammo. That's kind of the unique thing. I think you'd make a game that almost turns into more of a puzzle game. How do I beat these enemies in this number of uses? But one item you use many times, like, it's Portal. You use your portal gun many times. That's one item with many uses. It's like, well, it's any game. So, yeah. One item with many times you can use it. It's difficult to make that really feel like you have fit the theme, and it's not just something generic. Steve, a wife, what are you saying that in reference to? So actual ideas for one item, many uses. Let me also untangle some headphones here. Well, the chat's on such a delay that I don't know. I don't know what things were being referenced. Like Steve will have said that, and I've read it a minute or two after whatever I said. A wife is the... Oh, I see. Okay, a wife is the item with many uses. Okay. One item, many uses. What items in reality have many uses? That aren't a Swiss Army knife, which clearly does. It might be fun to take an item that you usually use in a very specific way in a game and never use it for that, and only do other stuff with it. So let's say you have like a sword, and it just never gets used as a sword. So you use it to like climb up walls and stuff. Like you stick it into the wall and like jump onto it. You could use it to use it like as an arrow in a bow and arrow. So you find a bow somewhere and you just launch a sword out of it or something like that. Remote control. Speaking of remote control, something that just came into my mind is a game like Watch Dogs feels like one item with many uses. You've got just this generic like hacking device, and having something like that where you've just almost got like a remote that affects lots of things in the game could be useful. I wonder if you could have a game where like almost all of the game assets are one thing. So the game is built out of cardboard boxes or something, but the walls are cardboard boxes and the doors are cardboard boxes, and it is the same item over and over again, but the fact that it's in certain places means that it can do different things. That might be something interesting, actually. You have one item, but depending on where you're stood, there's like a background. Maybe like it's tile-based, you've got a background. And depending on the tile that you're stood in front of, the object that you're holding does a different thing. I like that, actually. So you've got... I'm imagining almost like a Scrabble board where the letter, like you put a letter on triple word score, and now that letter almost means something new. It has a new score. So you've got a background where you have this one tool, but on the backing it might say like projectile, and now you're throwing this item as like a long range weapon. But if you move forwards, I'm imagining like a side-on platformer. If you move forwards, you now might be stood in front of a tile behind you that says I don't know. I can't think of the word for something like says pulse or something, and now you can use it to like push enemies away from you with like shockwaves. A trained dog is interesting. Yeah, that knows different commands. I guess to make it fit item, you'd maybe make it like a robotic dog, and then you can definitely make the claim that it fits item. But yeah, let's put that down. So I'm going to put a couple down. So yeah, like a robot dog with several commands, and tile-based background. Your item does different things when stood in front of different backing tiles. Okay. Night is coming, I despise as a theme. It's terrible. It's got like the worst characteristics of a Ludum Dare theme, I think, in that it's simultaneously really specific and yet means nothing game related at all. Like Night is coming, everyone is gonna make a game about like having to do something before it goes dark. So many games are gonna be the same thing. Lots of, I guess, survival-y type games, but mainly just it'll be a game where you're on like a 10-minute timer, and it will go dark by then, and you have to get something done before it. Night is coming is almost just like saying timed game. It's that uninteresting. And it's even worse than having a theme like day and night could be interesting because you can do anything with the day and the night. those two, the dichotomy there, you could make whatever change you want. Night could have implications in your game, but night is coming almost implies that the night part of the game doesn't even exist. The game happens before the night arrives. Night is coming, it's not here. Which means there isn't even this disparity between what happens in the day and what happens in the night, because the night hasn't arrived. I think if I was going to do Night is Coming, I would have to make a game, and it feels like a slight diversion from the theme, but where during the game, night does arrive, and once night arrives, things act differently. One idea that I guess comes to mind is having, like, almost like a platformer where during the day you have to like actually set up the area that you're in, because when night comes around things behave differently and you need to make sure that the path that you've gone through is like navigable. So maybe during the day you have to run from point A to point B, and while you're running you're doing stuff like maybe you have to knock down a tree to bridge a gap, but nocturnal animals live in the tree, so if you put it somewhere that's not going to help during the night when you have to run back from point B to point A, you might have left things in such a way that you now can't get back home. So you've got to make sure that the path that you run one way during the night allows you to come back the other way, because things are different during the night. So there's owls in the trees, or you can't see... Ooh, okay. What if during the nighttime you just can't see anything? It's pitch black. So during the day, you're actually having to like leave clues to yourself to be able to essentially navigate an invisible level during the nighttime. So you have to maybe set up lights for yourself, or like glow in the dark, like you can draw on stuff to show you where things are. So a platforming level. Yeah, Night is Coming, platform game where you go left to right, but at night you go right to left, yeah. Did I say that the same thing twice? You know what I mean. It actually reminds me, there's an old game, Jekyll and Hyde game, that I've never played and is apparently very, very bad. But that is a thing that happens in that game. Where you're Jekyll, you go, and I think it's daytime, you go right, and then during the nighttime you go left. I don't know if that necessarily actually affects the gameplay as much as it's just a visual thing, but you have a chance to set up during daylight so it's navigable after darkness falls. And then okay. Making connections. So I'm just going to quickly finish the rest of this list off. I think I put way too many in here. Oh no, did I? No, it's perfect. Okay, so making connections. One thing I've not really done actually is look through these game ideas to see if things can apply to more than one game. Making connections could be literally about like, hey Rainbow, connecting flights and stuff. So making connections is about having to make it to a connection in time. So it's about just navigating busy airports. maybe on each level is you coming in on a plane, like coming into land. And for the couple minutes while you're coming into land, you can pull up like a map of the airport to try and find like the fastest route to get to your connection. So you've got to get to a certain gate in time. Maybe that even means that you have to go through like alarmed doors and stuff. So instead of going through the terminal, you decide to go just down a staff-only staircase onto the runway and just run over. Which means that when you go through these places that you're not supposed to go through, you then start getting chased by like security and stuff, and you have to get onto that plane before you get caught. So it could be very literal, making plane connections. I'm also wondering if there's just like a really abstract puzzle game that you could do with making connections, where it's just like a tile grid. And making connections is almost like a match 3 game. Like you're connecting similar pieces. I was wondering whether there's a grid-based puzzle game where you have to connect pieces together, so maybe they slide around almost like a sliding puzzle, or like that traffic jam game where you have to get a car out of the car park by sliding cars around. But you can connect certain cars together, connect certain tiles together, so things move in certain ways. Nokia snake, but start and end dot longest snake. I'm not quite sure what the stuff after Nokia snake means. But having a game where you do actually like control like a Nokia snake, like this chain of essentially of like dots, but you can actually change the way that you're connected up in certain ways, so you can branch yourself off. So in Snake, if you run into yourself, you die. But in this game, if you run into yourself, it actually just connects the head that you were controlling to the bit of the body that it hit, and now that is the shape of the character, and it maybe breaks off over here. It's a predetermined start point and end point. If there was a predetermined start and end point, wouldn't that mean that you couldn't move? Maybe you could also have a game where you're like controlling 3 things, and 2 of them always have to be connected at any given time. But you can, whichever one isn't connected to the other 2 can freely move around. So I guess that would end up being like a puzzle game. And you have to have one thing that you can go and take and do something else. And then you have to manage to bring it back round to the connected pair, connect it up, and then you can free off another one to then go and do its own thing. Making connections to me feels very puzzle game, and puzzle games are really difficult for LD. Because designing puzzles is really time consuming. If you're going to make a platformer, it's pretty easy, right? You can slap any building shapes or anything like that, and they don't have to be these specific things that if you get the shape wrong, it's going to completely break the way. Like, puzzles are very specific. They are very intricately designed. A platformer doesn't necessarily have to be intricately designed. You just put things in, put enemies on them. Is it too hard? Take some enemies out. Is it too easy? Stick some enemies in. A puzzle is this interlocked. You can't just you can't just remove parts or put parts in. It makes the design process long and difficult. And making puzzle games for LD, not to say you can't do it, but it's hard. I think you almost have to have like a dedicated puzzle maker, unless you're just very good and very fast at making puzzles. Circus spinning plates or circus lion tamer? I'm not quite sure how they relate to making connections. Another idea actually that comes to mind, which is something I wanted to make a while ago, is a game about having to solve problems by doing programmable logic computers. So you get logic gates, and you have inputs and outputs to the logic gates, and you have to make certain conditions happen. So it might say there's 3 input buttons, and when you press the top one on its own, the light flashes for 5 seconds. If you press the second one, it stops any flashing lights that are currently flashing. But if there are no currently flashing lights, then it turns it on. And then the third button is like it inverts whatever the current state is or something. And then you have to make a logic gate map that correctly does what those 3 inputs should want it to do. It's slightly tenuous to the theme, but you are connecting up logic gates with wires. I'm going to put that one down for now. Isolation seems really rubbish. Don't like that theme. In a way, it kind of fits. There's a game idea that I've had for a long time, which fits the theme very well. And if I could make one game in my life, it would probably be this one. So maybe trying to knock up a 3-day proof of concept for that game. Would be a possibility. But essentially the game is, the whole idea is just to try and make the player almost like feel as lonely as possible. So you're a robot on a spaceship, but you play the side character. So it's influenced by films like Alien, where you've got this android, or Interstellar, where you've got those like sort of box-shaped robots. 2001: Space Odyssey, you've got HAL. There's lots of the time in these spacefaring films, the side AI character to me is like my favorite character, or one of the most interesting characters. Moon is a great example. Having the Kevin Spacey computer that follows Sam around. The side character, the support character, the AI is usually really interesting. So I wanted to make a game where you play as the AI, but the game is very clear that the story isn't focused on you. The story focuses on the crew members, the human crew members. I guess the ultimate irony being that on the meta level, like, you have human crew members that are actually just the computer AI, whereas the computer AI character that gets shunned and no one cares about because it's just a stupid robot that's outdated and doesn't do its job properly is controlled by the human. And everything about the game, the design of the game, would be intending to, like, intentional design choices to make the player feel very lonely and very not special. It would be quite a sad, harrowing game, I guess. It's not a fun game, but it fits Isolation pretty well. So I'm gonna write that one down. Excuse me. Duplication, I also not super into this one. Duplicate. Wonder if you could make almost a Papers, Please-y style game, almost like the opposite of Papers, Please, where you're trying to forge documents and papers and stuff as convincingly as possible. So you get given an example page and the person you want to make this document for, and you've got to try and replicate it as well as you can. I guess that's for Isolation. Penguin on Iceberg Adrift. I like the theme, although I feel like the gameplay for a game about a penguin and iceberg adrift would end up being relatively straightforward. Like, I guess you'd be trying to paddle around the iceberg that you're on to reach shore. I guess I'll put that down now. Okay. You know what, this also fits low tech, I think, pretty well, because logic gates are like the most basic operations you can really do for like programming. So having to build circuits for stuff that function using just like and or not basically would that feels very low tech to me. So I think you could do that. Take one, leave the rest fits. I'm going to come back to mutation. Take one, leave the rest fits an idea for a game that I had a while ago, which was also based on an LD idea, like one of the previous times that me and my cousin were going through the shortlist, and I think there was a theme that was like, you have 3 seconds was the theme or something, or like you have 5 seconds. And my idea was to do like a wave-based shooter, and at the end of every round, it does something similar to a game called Shoot Shimmy, which was also an LD game that I think you can get on the PlayStation Store and maybe other places. At the end of every round of fighting, you choose an upgrade, but the game gives you this massive board of options for all the things. Like, there's 25 upgrades that it shows you, and you've got to pick one in like 3 seconds. So you've got to scan them as quick as you possibly can and find one that you like the look of and go for it. You could do more with that as well. Maybe the actual floor of the arena that you're fighting in is tile based, like it's a 5x5 grid, and every time you kill an enemy, the floor tile that you kill them on like lights up, and then at the end of the round, potential power-ups that you can choose appear in the lit tiles. So the more of these tiles you can light during the fight, the more options you get to take a power-up at the end of each round light up, so you're getting more choice. I'm just going to put that one straight down because it's already a relatively fleshed out idea, which is nice because that means I'm spending as little time as I can coming up with ideas once the 72 hours starts. Evolve to Survive and Mutation are very similar, so I think I am just gonna come up with an idea for Evolve to Survive that fits both. I'm wondering whether you could have a game like a farming sim, but where you actually affect the genome of the plants. So you have like a gene sequencer, and different genes in the sequence do different things, and you have to maybe you have to work out what each gene does. So this plant's surviving better than this plant in cold weather. Like, this plant dies faster than this one in cold weather. So you look at the genes of the plants and you work out where the differences are. Like, they're the same species, but they're 2 strains, and this one's doing better in the cold than this one. So you compare the gene sequences, and maybe there's like 3 differences, and there's 20 genes and 3 of them are different. So you know that the gene for resistance to cold has to be one of these 3. So now you splice a gene with a plant to put this gene into its sequence to see if that helps resist it to cold, and you have to work out which genes to put into the DNA sequence of your plant to make a plant that is suited to the environment that you need it to be. So I'm going to put that one in. Okay, and that definitely fits under mutation as well. So that's the list done. Still doesn't necessarily mean that one of these games will be what gets made during LD, because maybe I'll come up with more ideas and stuff. But this is nice because whatever comes up, this time tomorrow, which is when it starts, I'll have a beginning point. Oh, there's one here that we haven't done. I guess I'll mention that in a moment then. But yeah, like I have a beginning point. So if side effects comes up, even though I don't really know what the game necessarily is, it's not just a blank slate. I can be like, okay, we've got the idea that you take upgrades with weird debuffs, so you can buff your damage, but maybe it does things like turn your screen upside down. And then I can go from there. So having this start is good. Small character, big enemies. I wonder if it could be where the enemies themselves almost have like a maze-like quality to them. So let's imagine that you have like a disc with paths that run through it, and the entire disc itself is the enemy. But you have to enter it and try and navigate inside it, maybe without touching walls and stuff, to reach a goal or to kill it. I don't particularly like that, and I don't particularly like this theme. Small character, big enemies is not good. I wonder if you can make this a little bit Catany. So the enemies are like way bigger than what's visible on screen. But without getting killed, you have to like fly around them. Like you've got this big giant, it's a bit redundant. You've got a giant enemy, and you have just like a helicopter that can fly around it and find out things about it. So you can fly up to its head and find out the color of its eyes or something, and fly down and see how many arms it's got. And then you almost have a Catany style manual that tells you how to kill it based on those factors. So you have to fly around, not get killed, not get swiped by it, not get its acid spray on you, like when you get in front of its face it tries to get you. And you have to fly around, gather information about it, and work out how you kill this particular giant when it has red eyes and 5 arms as opposed to blue eyes and 3 arms, and I guess various other factors and stuff. I like the visual of piloting around a helicopter around like a giant enemy that's stomping through a city and having to work out things about it because you can't see the whole thing at any given time. Also, the idea of not being able to see the whole enemy in one screen, that leads to some interesting ideas, I think, because it could be the fact that only the part of the enemy that you can see is X, or the part of the enemy that you can't see is Y. So you could have an enemy that doesn't have persistence. When you get it off the screen, the parts that you can't see can change. So the bit that you see always stays the same, but if there's a particular part of the enemy that you don't want to deal with, so maybe you're fighting these bosses, and this boss is like a scorpion, and it's got a scorpion tail with a laser on it, and you find the laser really hard to dodge. You can get it off screen, and the next time the laser appears on screen, because you've got away from it and then approached it again, the weapon on the tail is no longer a laser beam. Now it's like fires darts or something, and they're easier to dodge because it takes longer for a dart to hit you than the laser, but the dart does more damage if it does hit you. So having to get parts of this giant enemy off screen to be able to do certain stuff. It could also be a way of like things that are off screen literally don't exist. So an enemy's health is based on how much of the enemy is currently visible on screen. So you can kill an enemy by removing it entirely from your view. Alright. Well, there's at least one idea for every theme. That gives us our starting point when we begin doing the LD. Which is great, that's what we want. So the next thing that's going to happen is tomorrow, not long after this time, standard stream time. For me it's 12:30 right now, so tomorrow at 11, so an hour and a half before whatever time this is for you now, the theme will get announced, and from that point on I will be streaming as much as I possibly can for the next 3 days, for the next 72 hours up to the Monday evening, of me making whatever whatever game fits the theme that finally gets chosen. Steve, you have to collect parts of a robot. There are options for each part, and once collected, the robot becomes your enemy. That's kind of cool. So you're choosing the way the enemy acts towards you. It reminds me, there's a Final Fantasy game where you go archaeology digging, and you can do as much of this or as little of this as you want. It's like an optional side game, and doing digging like finds you money and stuff like that. So it's good if you wanna spend the time on it, getting more things for you or finding like rare weapons and stuff. But what they don't tell you is, until later on, is that they are actually building a robot from all the bits that you dig up. So the more time you spend on this minigame, and I spent ages on it, the harder this boss that you meet gets. And it has all the parts that you dug up. It's a cool idea. I feel like you can put so many things onto this boss that it just becomes impossible. Because I played this digging game for like hours. And then just couldn't beat this boss. Because it was made from all of these parts that I took up. I think that might be an X2. Because I think the reason I kept digging was to find like all the Albed primers to translate the Albed language. So I think this is Final Fantasy X2. But no, it's you only reminded me of it, Steve. Like it's a different concept because you don't choose the parts. You're just digging things up, and occasionally you find stuff, and it'll say like robot arm O, and you're like, okay, that's kind of weird, but I can sell it for money. And that's what you go and do. And then obviously they build a robot from those parts. So it's different. You do find parts that become the enemy that you fight, but you don't choose them. But yeah, games where you choose the debuff. You don't see those often. They exist, but you don't see many of them. The thing that you fight what you're against. Yeah, I think we were thinking of something kind of similar, Steve. So where you don't have, like, certain keyboard keys just aren't doing what you're expecting to do, and you have to slowly, like, get your keyboard back over the course of a game. Alright, I think this will do it for this stream. I will get as much sleep as I can tonight, because, wow, I'm not getting much over LD. And I will be back tomorrow evening to make a tiny game over the next 3 days. So I'm hoping to see some of you guys around. I'll be live like all day, every day. Anytime that I'm not asleep, I'll be live is the idea. So hopefully we'll catch you guys. Keyboard is predictive text. That's a really cool idea for a game where you're trying to fight the autocorrect. The problem with it is that it's not an LD game, because you'd have to write an autocorrect, and that alone is going to take you more than 3 days, let alone making a game on top of that. But as a concept, I love that. I love the idea of having to basically battle your own autocorrect to say the words that you want to say. That's fun. But yeah, I'd have to write an autocorrect, and that's not going to happen. Alright, I'm going to close the stream up. Catch everyone later. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.